What's up everybody and welcome back to the YouTube channel. Today we'll be breaking down various Easter eggs in Avengers Endgame and some of the most obscure Easter eggs in the movie. Of course it's impossible to get every Easter egg in Avengers Endgame, but we'll do our best to get as many as possible. So without further ado, let's go ahead and begin with the video. Right before though, the massive sale continues on the Avengers merch page, so if you guys want to pick something up, now is the time. You can get Quantum Realm hoodies, Tony Stark jackets, Spider-Man jackets, and much more, so be sure to check it out. One of the biggest Easter eggs in Avengers Endgame is the original Hank Pym Ant-Man helmet. Captain America and Tony Stark venture back to the 1970s in order to get the Tesseract as well as Pym particles. We briefly get to see the helmet. A helmet that's pretty much an exact replica of all of the Ant-Man helmets from the comic books, or at least the very early ones. Next up we have one of my favorite Easter eggs, that being the destruction of Captain America's shield, or at least partial destruction. This is a moment fans have been waiting for so long in the MCU, and is also something that happened in the Infinity Gauntlet storyline, again by the hand of Thanos. So it's absolutely great that it finally played out on screen, again holding precedence to Tony Stark's vision all the way back in Age of Ultron, but again being a direct reference to the Infinity Gauntlet comic book storyline, where again this also happens. Another one of my favorite Easter eggs in Avengers Endgame is actually the first shot of the movie, that being a shot of Hawkeye's ankle, as of course he's under house arrest after the events of Captain America Civil War, the same type of house arrest that we see Scott Lang is under in Ant-Man and the Wasp, meaning of course that he cannot leave his house after going against the Sokovia Accords and the government. After the snap occurs though, this little matters, as Barton is free to go wherever he wants, as I'm sure the US government little cares about Hawkeye. Again back in the 1970s though, we also encounter a familiar face for those of us that watch the Peggy Carter series, that character being Edwin Jarvis, the same butler that worked for Howard Stark and inspired the Jarvis Protocol and AI, the same AI that Tony Stark would use over the first several Iron Man movies, and the AI that would eventually become Vision. This was a pretty big Easter egg for everybody that watches Agent Carter, as this is a character very few people expected to show up in the MCU, but it's still great to know where the inspiration of Jarvis came from Tony Stark and the Iron Man armor. In one of the very few openings of the movie, after the 5-year time jump, we also encounter a familiar face for very big comic book fans. That person is actually the comic book writer of Infinity Gauntlet, the classic Marvel book storyline. Jim Starlin actually appears in this scene and during the grief counseling session with Captain America, along with Joe Russo, with Joe Russo's character also, I may add, being the first openly gay character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Another little Easter egg. One of my favorite smaller little Easter eggs is actually when Ant-Man comes out of the Quantum Realm for the first time. The lockup where the van is located is actually labeled 616. For comic book fans, we know that the main Marvel comic book universe is Earth 616, as there are different realities in the comics as well. A massive nod to the comics counterparts of these characters. In the first act of the movie, after the Avengers discover that time travel is actually possible, Hulk as well as Rocket Raccoon go to New Asgard. New Asgard is actually located in a Norwegian city known as Tonsberg. For those of you that recognize this name, you also recognize the importance of the city in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Thousands of years back in the MCU timeline, Tonsberg is where Odin actually fought off the Frost Giants, as well as the same city where Odin ultimately chose to hide the Tesseract all the way back in Captain America the First Avenger, meaning that for Asgardians, Tonsberg is a very special place with a lot of history, as well as it being a special location for the MCU. Another far more obscure Easter egg actually goes back to the 1970s scene where Tony Stark and Captain America are getting the Tesseract and the Pym particles. In Cap's disguise, you can actually see his name tag is called Roscoe. In the comic books, Roscoe Simmons was a person that actually undertook the Captain America mantle after Captain America became Nomad, something that we briefly saw for Captain America and was hinted at him in Avengers Infinity War. However, the story of Roscoe Simmons is not a very happy one, as he was ultimately tortured and then killed by the Red Skull, afterwards being placed on display. A very dark moment in the Marvel comic books. Next up is one of my favorite moments of all of Endgame, as well as one of my favorite Easter eggs, that being when Steve Rogers' Captain America is the last Avenger standing against Thanos on the battlefield, and he tightens up his shield. In the Infinity Gauntlet comic book, this also happened when Captain America was the last one standing against the Mad Titan. And just as Cap did in the movie, despite being severely overpowered, he approached Thanos, ready to give his life for the Avengers and the world. A great moment directly lifted from the Infinity Gauntlet comic book. And now let's finish off the video with two more Easter eggs. One being the clanking noise at the end of the end credits is actually a callback to the very first Iron Man movie. It's the exact same sound of Tony Stark building the Iron Man Mark 1 within the cave in Afghanistan. A callback all the way back to the birth of the Iron Man character, as we just witnessed the end of one of the greatest characters in cinematic history. And finally, the last last Easter egg that we'll discuss in this video is the appearance of Harley from Iron Man 3, the little kid that shows up at the end of Tony Stark's funeral, as he's standing alone in the background, of course the actor being Ty Simpkins. This was a great little nod to Iron Man 3, and really ties the Marvel Cinematic Universe together, as of course in Iron Man 3, Harley played a very important role. But those were some of the most major Easter eggs in Avengers Endgame, but tell me in the comments below which one was your favorite, and out of the ones that we didn't discuss, which there are many, which is your favorite Easter egg in Endgame? Again guys, don't forget to pick up your own Quantum Realm hoodie. Also, the Infinity War Hot Toys giveaway also continues. To enter this, all you have to do is like this video, subscribe, turn on notifications, and let me know which Infinity Stone you think is the most powerful. As always my friends, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hit that subscribe button to assemble and join our team, and have a great day.